Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Texas Outlaw Running Talk Show. This is episode 18, and we were with the elite runner, Ryan Miller. Ryan Miller, he recently won the Bandera 100K, punching his ticket to Western States, and he actually just ran Western States. He's going to just share that story with us. But Ryan has a lot of really awesome running accomplishments, and he's just an awesome runner overall. He has a lot of wins and stuff like that under his belt. But before we dive into that, we actually do have a Patreon member that joined our Patreon, and every person that joins, you're going to get a shout out at the beginning of our show. So shout out to Jeremy. Jeremy recently joined the Patreon, and he's going to get a lot of cool behind the scenes content, stuff like that. So if you guys want to be a part of the Patreon, it's $2 a month. Link is in the description. So if you guys want to just help out the show through the Patreon, feel free to do so. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, scroll down and leave a little rating for us. We've been getting a lot of really cool ratings, and actually later in the show, I'm going to bring up one of the ratings that I thought was really cool. Someone left a really cool review, so we'll bring that up later in the show. But that's all we got for the intro. So Ryan, how you doing, man?
Briston, thanks for having me on, man. It's an honor to be back. I don't know, maybe I'm the first repeat guest or not, but I'm excited to be here, man.
Yeah. Ryan was back from the Texas Devil Running Talk Show when it was called Texas Devil back in the day. We haven't had Ryan on for like 6 months, I think. So yeah, I'm super excited to have you back on though. Last time, a lot of the listeners really like listening to you, and we have this private group chat on Facebook. It's a Facebook group called Texas Outlaw Runners, and some girl, she took a screenshot of the story that I posted yesterday that you're going to be on, and she was like, "Oh, my favorite guest is coming back on the show." So you got some fans, that like talking to you or listening to us talking and everything like that. So, but yeah, I'm excited to have you back on, man. So you qualified for Western States to the Bandera 100K, and you have some crazy story for Western States. But let's go back to the training before Western States, because I know you had some injuries going into Western States, and some of those things you had to battle through. So you want to tell us kind of training and about that injury and stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure. I was riding a high after Bandera, that's for sure. And really quickly, I think one of the cool things is we recorded the podcast the first time I was on, maybe like a month or two before Bandera. And I wouldn't say I like called my shot like Babe Ruth, but I definitely said I was going out there to win and get a golden ticket. You reposted it,
Yeah.
that like either like right before, or even like right after the race. You're like, Ryan freaking called his shot, man. I was
Yeah.
like, man, that was kind of cool to look back and be like, that's what I'm going for. And
Yeah.
freaking did it.
Can I just say something real quick? So last time we had you on the show, you were like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing trail running. I don't really know. And then like 2 months later, you freaking smashed Bandera and won it. And yeah, that's when I made the post, because you're like, yeah, I'm thinking about like running Bandera. Might try to go for Western States. And then right after in the video, you like win Western States and have like, or win, not Western States, Bandera, and you have like the golden ticket, man. So that was freaking awesome. That was really cool. Like, it just kind of came out of nowhere. Like no one was expecting it, man. You just came out of nowhere, and everybody was just like, "Whoa," you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really awesome, man.
It was. But yeah, going back to afterwards, the training for Western States, came off of it. I was ready to launch back into, like you have a good race, like you're super excited to get right back into it. And
Yeah,
man, like second run back, the outside of my right knee started hurting. And I ended up having some IT band tendonitis that lasted for like 2.5 months. Like I was doing all the physical therapy, massage work, all the prehab. Like I do 60 minutes of like stretching and activation work before run, go out. It hurt so bad I couldn't run. So it was like off and on for like 2.5 months. Finally, in early April, was able to really get the ball rolling and did put in a really good amount of work from like April all the way up until mid-June before the race, and felt strong and ready to go. Unfortunately, sickness came upon me and my family. My son Maverick, he's about to turn 1 year old here in July, and came home from daycare. He had snot coming out of every orifice on his body,
yeah,
and couldn't breathe. And lo and behold, 2 days later, I feel this exact same way. And that was like 3 days before Western States was supposed to go off. So
yeah,
I stepped to the starting line healthy and strong, but my immune system was just not cooperating with me out there.
yeah. Yeah. So for as far as training goes, you're in San Antonio. So were you doing like a lot of training on majority trail, majority road? Like what kind of did the training look like going into it?
Definitely majority trail.
Yeah,
I do think that it's really important for like your speed sessions. So fartleks, tempos, intervals to do it on like runnable terrain. When I say runnable, it can still be on trail, but it better be like groomed like gravel or something very easy to really open up your stride on, because you want to be able to work on your speed, right? If you're on something really technical or super steep up or down, you can't really uh really, you know, flex your aerobic system and your speed out there. So I was still doing that like once a week, but then pretty much everything else I was getting on trail, putting in as much vert, so climbing up and down as I could. And I think in fact in the last week I got above 20,000 feet of vert for the first time, which is for me is definitely a lot. That's
yeah,
I was probably averaging like 3 to 4,000 per day. Here in Texas, that's kind of hard to come across because we don't have mountains. We do have the hill country though. But then you go look at some other guys like Jared Hazen, Jim Walmsley, Hayden Hawks, and that's a regular thing for
yeah.
them. So I'm still adjusting to that metric of training and hopefully be putting more vert in the future.
Did you see that training video, Jim Walmsley? How he trained like 10 days out from Western States. Did you see that video?
Yeah, doing a sauna in his old beat up car and then
Yeah.
running in the middle of the day and just it was funny. It, sometimes we think these guys and girls who are just otherworldly in their performances have some secret. And then you see something like that and you're like, it's really not that complicated. Like Walmsley's doing what a lot of us are
Yeah.
doing, but to a higher level and like higher volume. And he's also just uber talented. Like you have to be born a certain way to be able to do things like that. Just like we're all not Giannis Antetokounmpo or however you pronounce his last name from the NBA or LeBron James, right? Like there's a certain level of genetic talent. But yeah, watching his video, which I believe it was on Sweat Elite on
Yeah.
YouTube.
Sweat
So shout
Elite.
out to them. They're putting out some awesome workout videos for gym and then a lot of track athletes too, leading up to the Olympics and Olympic trials. Um, I like that the him in the car with the hot boxing it before and afterwards, and then him. They showed him just like walking through the river during his training run, and he just sat there, got some water in his hat, drank from his bottle for a bit. It's so low key, and that's what trail running is all about.
Yeah, trail running is so much fun. So now that you're like, you're really a trail runner now, like how does it stack up against road running?
Whew, that's a good question. What I really enjoy about trail running is that you get to throw time out the window. At least like for most of your training runs, right? If you're going out for like an easy 8 and you're on some like really technical terrain, just get the volume in. Like I don't even look at my watch. Like I just look at it like an hour and a half in. I'm like, oh yeah, I got like another mile, 2 miles to go, or something like that. So it's not so much like focused on like splits, PRs, anything like that. It's more about like pure competition, having fun. Like I call it like taking forest baths or like playing in the mountains.
Yeah.
It feels more natural, kind of like it was the way we humans were like supposed to exist and move through the
Yeah.
world a little bit. And I'm really enjoying that. And that's not to say I don't miss the roads too. I
Yeah.
definitely will be back. One of my goals is to be back at the 2024 U.S. Olympic Marathon trials
Oh,
because I think
okay.
I have some unfinished business there.
Yeah.
But for the time being, uh, I'm pretty heavily incentivized from Nike now to continue running on the trails as part of their Nike Trail team.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're wearing Nike Trail now. I think the last time you were wearing, was it Run Rabbit or something like
Rabbit, yep.
Rabbit? Yeah. And now you're sponsored by Nike Trail. How's that?
Oh, it is pretty cool to be
Yeah.
part of Nike. I think all of us grow up and we see. I mean, like Nike is so heavily involved in every sport in the U.S. It feels like, and where they started was running, right?
Yep.
So the trail side of things for them is definitely smaller than the road running side, which is totally okay. That's how it works in the real world too. But they've got like a really like mighty crew of runners. In fact, this past weekend or at Western States, two of my Nike Trail teammates went 2-3 behind Jim Walmsley.
Yeah. That's all.
One of them was wearing like a really badass prototype Nike Trail shoe that should be coming out, and
Yeah.
uh, I probably can't say too much about it, but
Yeah.
it's gonna blow people's minds
That's awesome.
once it does come out. And yeah, just I believe in the product, and it's it's just fun to be part of something that you maybe like dream about when you're in high school and college. Like, man,
Yeah.
it would be so cool to be sponsored by Nike someday.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
is Hayden Hawks, is he sponsored by Nike Trail?
No, he's with Hoka.
Oh, okay.
Some of the other Nike Trail athletes are Tyler Green, who got second.
Yeah.
He lives in Portland, Oregon. Drew Holman got third. He lives in Colorado. And then Matt Daniels,
Yeah, Matt
who
Daniels.
you may know, he's from the
Yeah.
DFW area, lives in Colorado now. He's a Nike Trail athlete. Myself, and then women, there's like so many badass women. Brittany Peterson, Keely Henninger,
Yeah.
they both got top 10 at Western States, among
Yeah,
others.
Western State's top 10 was insane. It was like a lot of women, right? Like overall, top 10, right? That was
There's
insane.
3 women in the top 10.
Yeah.
And then I think there was like, I want to say like 9 in the top 20 and 15 in the top 30. I mean, just the men, for whatever reason, we all just blew ourselves out in the beginning and couldn't make it to the finish line. Lots of dropouts,
Yeah.
lots of really slow finishes. The women just crushed it. And like some guys might be like, oh, like, we're losing our dominance or something. But it gets me pumped up. I'm like, these women are changing the paradigm of what's possible for them on the trails and ultra distances. And that gets me pumped up too to do the same in my own training. Like, hey, coming from a road background like myself, I'm a little different. Like, I want to shatter expectations of what's possible for a trail runner from Texas to compete on the international scene, and be, as good as Walmsley or some of these other guys, Killian Jornet. And maybe that's not me, but maybe I can inspire some other people to pursue that too.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I think there was a study going back to the women. I think there's a study that came out like a year or two ago saying that when it comes to super, super long distances, women are actually better at it than men. Because like Courtney DeWalter won like the Moab 240, I think, and some study came out and they're like, yeah, like women can really push longer and farther than men can when it comes to extremely long endurance distances. So I don't know if that's true or not. Don't have like the studies with me, but I think it's starting to show a little bit through Western States and everything this year. So
Yeah. Well, think about it this way. We men, like, our advantage is that we're taller, more powerful, have testosterone in much higher levels. And that benefits us more in the shorter, more explosive events, right? And women do start to close the gap as the distances go on. And then you get to 100 miles, like, there's very little correlation between like how good of a sprinter you are and how good you are at 100 miles, or even how good of like a 5K or 10K runner you are. Although I think that does sit your kind of like potential at 100 miles, because the faster you are at 5K, the easier 7 flat per mile pace feels, or 8 flat per mile pace feels. But we definitely lose our advantage as males compared to biological females as the distance gets longer.
yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, the sport's just developing, growing so much, and every year everybody's just getting faster and faster. And it's all growing so quick, especially after COVID. It flooded like trail running. Just so many people came into the sport when COVID hit, just because they found out about it. Like not a lot of people know about it, and they find out about it. They're like, "Oh, this is the most amazing thing ever!" And then like a lot of them just join in. But it's really cool to see like the sport grow, and then just how it's affecting different groups and stuff like that. But man, let's talk about Western States, man. I want to hear about Western States. So, y'all went out a couple days before. You want to tell us kind of like before that start line, what that looked like?
Yeah, flew out on Tuesday, and we took our son with us, which, traveling with an infant, especially one that's like can move around, is hell. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, let me tell you, like, the most stressful day of the entire build was travel day, getting there with Maverick. So it was fun. Just, I mean, it wasn't fun. It was stressful, but
yeah,
fun. Like, when we're on the plane and he's like standing on the seat in front of us and like looking over at other people and waving at them and like doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So that was fun. We made it there in one piece though. We survived. The race starts in Olympic Valley, which is right near Lake Tahoe,
yeah,
and just super gorgeous. It's like a little over 6,000 feet. The mountains climb up to like mid 8,000s. It's a ski resort. The race has been starting there from the very beginning. The first 3 miles of the race go straight up the mountain, like
yeah,
literally up the ski slopes to the very top, up to one of the passes. So got to enjoy 3 days there before relaxing. The little village has like a bunch of restaurants and all the runners and the spectators and the media started pouring in the next couple of days. So it felt like a reunion. A reunion for most. For me, it was like just a breeding ground of just meeting people and having fun and smiling. So I got to meet so many of the Nike teammates I just told you about for the first time. You know, race director, other people I'd be competing against. My family started coming in, my pacers, my crew. So that was amazing. Before the race, they have like a meeting for everybody on Friday. And one of the cool parts is they do bring up all the like elite athletes and the people who've finished top 10 or qualified with a golden ticket and introduce them to like the entire crowd that's there. So like probably 1,000, 2,000 people just out in this meeting outside. And they brought me up there. And I tried to envision myself as like Conor McGregor before an MMA fight. Like I was acting all stoic. I had my sunglasses on. They called me and I just put a hand up and put it back down. It was pretty fun. Although that's not necessarily the attitude most trail runners have. I thought it was kind of fun to be thinking that way up there.
Yeah.
And that was it. I mean, obviously I started to get sick Wednesday after arriving on Tuesday. So I was taking my zinc pills, getting sleep, hydrating like crazy. I was like doing everything I possibly could to kick it in time.
Yeah.
And it got a little better before the race, much worse after because I beat my body up quite a bit over 55 miles. And yeah, I think that's like the highlights of the few days leading up to the race.
Yeah. All right. So race day, what time did y'all start at the start line?
Yeah, it's a 5 a.m. start out
Okay.
there.
Yeah, so y'all probably had to wake up pretty early. So when y'all started, how was it towing the line with guys like Jim Walmsley and like all these like really well-known runners? Like, kind of tell us how that was.
You know, I'd watched quite a few YouTube videos where it shows the start of the race. And it's always like in slow motion with dramatic music. And
Yeah.
sometimes you imagine that's what it's going to actually be like on the starting line, but it wasn't like that at all. I mean, it was like I was around all the other guys and girls. Everyone's like, hey, good luck, have fun out there, fist bumps. It wasn't like as dramatic as people make it out to be.
That's funny.
So it felt cool to be out there like that. And honestly, Jim was playing it very casual. I think like the whole weekend he kind of stayed secluded as much as he could. So you didn't see him out at the events too much. Even before, he was just kind of off to the side, keeping to himself, talking with his crew a little bit. So nothing crazy there.
Yeah.
But once they have a shotgun that they shoot every year before the race. Like it was on, and Walmsley and Hayden Hawks took off in the beginning, and they started gapping everybody just a little bit on the initial climb. But I stuck with all the other lead guys as much as I could. So there's probably a pack of like 20 of us behind them climbing up the escarpment at the very beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. So after that, were you just kind of like with the lead guys all the way up to tell us like what point kind of like your body started breaking down, like when you were feeling good, when you thought you wouldn't, kind of go into stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't feel very good from the start, to be honest with you. I wasn't super achy and didn't have a headache or anything starting out, but I was really, really congested. So my like nasal cavity, my chest, I was like just constantly spitting out mucus on that first climb, trying to clear everything out from the night before, like I'd done the previous days. And so I didn't feel good. I kept up with everybody on the climb, but I could tell like, okay, my effort's a little bit higher than it probably should be for 100 miles here. But I'm going to give myself a chance. Like I'm not going to let everybody run away from me, you know? So got to the top of the first pass. So I think it's like 3,000 feet of climbing right there at the beginning. I was like right outside the top 10, but we were all within like a minute of each other over the top. And then you get into the high country section. So the high country, you're basically just running it, you know, anywhere from like 7,000 to 8,000 feet altitude, just really beautiful trails along ridge lines. It's probably the most technical section of the course, meaning like the rest of the course after the high country is like very well groomed, really runnable. This stuff was like lots of rocks, a few creek passes, things like that, which in Texas, honestly, our trails are not very well groomed. It's super rocky down here. So I was used to that. I actually rolled with Tyler Green up until like mile maybe like 20,
Yeah, okay.
from like over the pass to like 20. And he ended up finishing second place, which
Yeah.
just puts it into perspective. And I think at the time we were together, I think we were in like 14th and 15th overall. Just kind of relaxing and talking back there a little bit. I did fall around mile 20.
Yeah.
I ate dirt, as some people say. It wasn't too bad. I cut up my hand and my hand on the left side a little bit and my right knee.
Yeah.
Nothing major though, like where I was like limping coming out of it. I just got back up and kept rolling. I was really starting to not feel well, probably like mile 22, 23. And I got to the first crude aid station at mile 24, which is Duncan Canyon. And I told my crew, I was like, guys, like, I don't feel very good. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to go because I feel this like creeping sense that like I'm going to like just either bonk hard or just like really fall off bad. But I told them that. But I kept going. Like I got my nutrition from them. I kept plowing along. I went into Duncan Canyon and it hit me as I was coming out of Duncan Canyon, mile 27, 28, 29, was really starting to feel shitty out there.
Yeah.
And so I made it to Robinson Flat, which is mile 30. And that's when the shit kind of hit the fan. Like I took a seat in a chair that my crew had set up for me. And instantly I started feeling like hypothermic. So like my teeth were shaking. I felt really cold. My body just felt like it was shutting down a little bit. And I didn't want to get up and keep going. Like I told my crew, like, please let me drop out here. Like I do not feel good. I don't think I can finish 100 miles today. They're like, no, stay patient. It's okay. In fact, there was a tweet by I Run Far who was they were doing the main coverage on Twitter during the race, and they took a picture of me, and they said I look like I was in like horrible spirits, like not smiling, sitting there with my head down. And they're like, Ryan Miller's been here for 40 minutes now. We think this might be the end of the road for him, and it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that answers your question. When did I start feeling crappy? Like in that 20-mile mark, like around there. And yeah, it was from there. I knew it was going to be a tough day.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, right after your crew pushed you on, and you ended up making it to like mile 50, right?
Mile 55,
Yeah.
Michigan Bluff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And this was your first. So Bandera 100K was your first 100K, right? And this would have been your
Mm-hmm.
first 100 miler. Yeah.
Yep.
Man, that's solid. So you made it to mile 50, and like, tell us how that felt like when you got there.
uh, well, yeah, coming out of Robinson Flat, which is where we were when we left off last time,
Yeah.
I actually felt better after taking like a 45-minute break, as most people would, right? You sit there, you eat and drink a lot. I got my feet all fixed up, so felt pretty good. And actually, I caught up to one of the guys named Patrick Reagan, who'd finished 8th
Yeah.
the year before, and I ran with him for like 10 miles after. Like, he ended up finishing 11th on the day.
Wow.
So even after taking a 45-minute break, I was still running with a guy who almost got top 10.
Yeah.
Which just puts into perspective of how like patient you can be, and like even when you're feeling crappy, you can come out of it.
Yeah.
But rolled with him. He gave me some really encouraging advice. I made it to the next crude aid station. Oh, funny anecdote. The next aid station, there was no crew there, but the name of the aid station is Miller's Defeat, which that's my last name. I'm like, what the hell? They named it Miller's Defeat. What is this? I actually felt really good through Miller's Defeat though. So yeah, for whatever that's worth, that's not the one that did me in.
Yeah.
But I made it to the next crude aid station around mile 38. It felt like I still felt good enough to keep going from there. The caveat was from mile 38, the next opportunity I would have to see my crew and potentially like drop out if I was really not feeling good was mile 55. So I had 17. I had like a decision. Like if I leave here, I have to go 17 miles or else they will literally keep me on the course until the race is over, and then they'll like airlift me out or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So like, all right, let's go. Let's give it a shot. Like I'm not here. I didn't come here to like just quit. Like I'm gonna give it all until my body just can't go anymore. And my body definitely. I reached that point going up the Devil's Thumb climb. Devil's Thumb, which is like a horrible name. I'm thinking of like the devil like shoving his thumb up my butt or something and saying like you're terrible. I don't know. It's like the imagery I have of it,
Yeah.
but it's a 1,700-foot climb over a mile and a half.
Yeah.
So super steep the entire time, and it's on a like a ridge face that's in the sun. So there's like sections of it. It's like 120 degrees out there,
Wow.
brutal. I got to the top and like again had those like hypothermic type feelings,
Yeah.
and just like body shutting down. I literally went and just laid down on a cot and just curled into a ball for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
uh I started coming out of it a little bit, got some fluids in, got some food. I actually had like a physical therapist come in and like stretch me out a little bit because I was cramping some in my hip flexors. And they told me, I asked them like, can I please drop out here? They're like, you can't drop out here. There's no crew to take you anywhere. Like you got to keep going. So I had 7 more miles to Michigan Bluff from the top of Devil's Thumb. And I walked, I just walked 7 miles because I couldn't run anymore. My
Wow.
body was just done. So that was when I knew like I'd given everything I had. There was no point in trying to walk another 45 miles to the finish. But once I saw my family and my crew and my son and just gave them all hugs, like it was all worth it. Even though I was sick, I made it 55 miles and I'm proud of myself for doing that. And I learned a lot, specifically, even when your body feels like complete shit, like it did for me twice when I was literally felt like I was going to die. You
Yeah.
can come out of it. It's possible if you keep putting electrolytes, fluids, and calories in you, you will come back. You just might need a little time to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So yeah, that's one of the things. And I was gonna ask you right after that, what are some big lessons that you've learned from the whole Western States experience, and what are some things you want to carry into next year and all your goals that you have next year?
Yeah, lessons learned. Number one, patience. Like I told you at the beginning, even when I felt terrible, I was running with the guy who got second place.
Yeah.
Even after I stopped for a long time, I was running with the guy who got 11th place. And it just shows that like if you take your time, stay relaxed, especially in an event like that where these guys just get their testosterone gets raging and like everybody goes out
Yeah.
way too hard because they want to challenge Walmsley or break a course record or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you can run a pretty damn epic race
Yeah.
if you are patient with yourself and stay within yourself. So that was probably lesson number one. Number two was just like the logistics of a 100-mile race. What is it supposed to feel like? What's the mentality when you're in it? How do I want my crew to be set up next time? What kind of equipment do I want to use? So I use like a hydration pack this time. And I think next time I'd probably roll with handheld bottles. I feel a little more comfortable with them. Uh, and it's just feels lighter when it's hot out there. How to properly use ice and ice bandanas. I could go on and on. It was a big learning curve for me, and I'm glad I had the experience because I do plan on coming back to Western States in the future. Like Redemption Tour is
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah. You plan on
Yeah.
running Western, or not Western States, but Bandera again to qualify for Western States?
Yeah. So tentative race schedule for the fall right now is I'm gonna run the USA Trail Half Marathon Championships in Hayward, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And that's hosted by the Berkey Trail Festival. And that's September 25th. And then October 31st, I'm gonna go run the Spartan US 50K Championship in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Oh yeah, that's where I'm
So
at right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll be up in your neck of the woods in October for that. And they're actually having a big trail running conference in the few days leading up to it, hosted by Spartan and the American Trail Running
Yeah.
Association Ultra. So check that out. You or anyone else that wants to go do that. So that's October 31st. JFK 50, which is a really big,
Yeah.
prestigious old 50 miler.
I saw
Yeah,
you
and
posted something about that. Yeah.
yeah, that was the first one I'm officially registered for. I'm not registered for the other two yet because I'm awaiting. I email them and kind of waiting on confirmation. But I want to go do JFK 50, and then Bandera 100K. As long as it's a golden ticket race again, I'm totally in because
Yeah.
that's my course, man. I want to own that, represent my home state and
Yeah.
city. And honestly, I mean, I have my eyes on. I really want to challenge Walmsley's course record on it. He ran 7 hours and 47 minutes
Yeah.
on the course. I ran 8 hours and 10 minutes my first go around. So
Yeah.
was that 23 minutes behind him. But over the course of 100K, especially with more experience on the trails, like I think I could challenge for that on the right day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exciting,
Yeah.
man. I'll make sure to clip that and send it to iRunFire, see what they do with it. They'll be like Ryan
That'd be
Miller
pretty.
challenges Jim Walmsley. Yeah.
Maybe we wait till we're a little closer to Bandera
Yeah, yeah.
for
And
that
then I'll
time.
send
But
it out.
literally, you never know, right? Like I could go out there and it's pouring rain, or it's like
Yeah.
90 degrees because Texas, you never know what the weather's gonna be like. And if that happens, like, yeah, course record is probably out of the question. Like you need really good
Yeah.
conditions to challenge something as strong as what
Yeah.
Jim puts up on some of these courses. But I think it's a possibility. So it'll be fun to chase if everything lines up.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm excited to see what you do in these next few races because um as far as I go, like being a spectator on the outside, just following on Instagram, stuff like that, it's been really cool to see how much you're like developing as a trail runner and how big you're coming in and kind of like
Yeah.
dominating the field a little bit, especially in Texas. So it's really cool to see, man. Um, I have questions to ask every guest, and I'm going to ask you some. First one, if you could only pick one song for runs for the rest of your life, what song would you choose?
Oh man, what I tell you last time, was it Dark Horse by Aaron Watson? I,
Um, yeah, you told me that. Yeah, I
I'm
think you told me that
I'm
last time.
I'm pretty sure that's what I told you. That was my like theme song for Bandera 100K
Oh,
before we
okay.
talked last time.
Yeah.
The one I'm kind of hooked on now is another country song, which I listen to all kinds of music. It's not
Yeah.
always country, but it just happens another one spoke to me, and it's Till You Can't by Cody Johnson.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
And
good
I
one.
think I think he's actually a Texas artist as well. And Till You Can't, it's just a song about like basically take that chance when you have it, like chase that dream. The specific quote in there is like, chase the dream because the dream ain't going to chase you back. And that's what I'm living by right now. Like my dream is to like continue having fun with running, try to be one of the best in the world at it, light my competitive soul on fire, uh, and keep having fun. And that song, specifically that line, perfectly encapsulates that. So
Yeah.
that's what I would. That's my answer to that question.
Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah. Also, this is not a question or anything, but I noticed this and I was thinking about this on a run like 2 days ago. But I think it's really cool that statistically proving if you name your child Ryan or you have the last name Miller, statistically, they are more likely to be a professional trail runner, run Western States, and just be like an elite runner overall. I don't know about you, but every guy I talk to that's like an elite runner, his name's Ryan. Like we got a guy North Texas. His name's Ryan Hill. He's like the fastest local around, and his name's Ryan. And then we got Ryan Miller, and then there's some other Ryans in that run like Western States and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I thought that was pretty funny though. And who's the guy with the last name Miller? Um,
Zach Miller is probably
Zach
who you're
Miller.
thinking of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we got a bunch of Ryans and Millers in the and the. I wonder if that's why they named it Miller's Defeat. Is because
Maybe they just want to slow us all down because
yeah.
all the Millers keep coming for the Western States crown.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah. So like for the runners out there listening, what's some good advice you could give them? Last time you gave them some really good advice, and just kind of like motivated them. What's something that you kind of live by or that you've been picking up on lately that you would really want to share to help
Mm-hmm.
out people listening that are regular runners, people who aspire to be a professional runner, or people who just like trail running. What's some things that you got for them?
Yeah. Number one, I think I've learned a lot about this past year, especially in the time of the pandemic, is exude positivity. Like put positive thoughts, messages, energy out into the world. Because when you do, it gets reflected back onto you.
Yeah.
You'll find that like, yeah, when you like give someone that shout out on Instagram or tell them good job or like, whatever, like encourage them when they need it the most, then those people are also there for you and they send it right back at you, and then you're both lifted up. Right. So I think that's like the highest level thing that I would say, try to exude positivity and put it out in the world. So it's going to help you out so much. And then like specifically as it relates to running, find whatever motivates you, for most people, especially coming back from the pandemic, that's probably like a dream or a goal race that you want to do. that's Boston coming up in October, your first ultra marathon, or shit, just like getting off your couch after eating Cheetos for the whole pandemic and running a 5K. Like, do it, you know, get out there and give yourself a chance, have fun, chase your dream. But yeah, find what motivates you in regards to running, put it on the calendar and have some accountability with it, in whatever way that needs to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of things that a lot of runners, including, runners like myself, we're running in college, and runners like you, where you're an elite runner, one of the things that a lot of runners struggle with is just getting out the door, because not every day you want to get out the door.
Yep.
I think it just comes down to discipline. So you have anything as far as discipline goes, just how people can just get out there, put the shoes on, and get those miles in?
I think it helps to almost like book out time in your
Yeah.
calendar and like know when you're going to go do it. Because if you don't, other things are going to come up, right?
Yeah.
Uh, or if like you don't get up, if you don't plan on getting up at 5:30 a.m. to go get it done before your day starts, like, and just hope that time becomes available later in the day, it's probably not. You need to prioritize it and make sure you're getting it done in the time that you have.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the main thing as it relates to discipline. But ultimately, that motivation has to come from within you. Nobody can force you to get out there and get your runs in,
Yeah.
because like ultimately, you're on a college cross country team. It's your decision to show up to practice every day. And sure, maybe if you didn't, you'd lose a scholarship or something, but your life's not going to end just because you stop running.
Yeah.
You have to be the one who gets up in the morning every day, goes to practice, puts in your best effort. So you almost have to search within you for that discipline and remember why you're running in the first place. Like, why do you love it? You love it for, the fact that it brings you good health, that it's a good competitive outlet for you, that it's something that you just generally love to do, and how it makes you feel and the friendships you get from it.
Yeah.
Try to figure out that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's some good stuff. Yeah. I feel like as someone's listening to this on the run right now, they're probably going like a million miles an hour. Like their pace is just dropping as we're giving them like motivational stuff. But with that though, I do have this quote from Eliud Kipchoge. He said, "Only the disciplined ones are free in life. If you aren't disciplined, you are a slave to your moods. You are a slave to your passions." That's a fact. Eliud Kipchoge said that, and that man, I feel like he's a very wise man. He's getting older,
Yeah,
so and he's been running for a while. So if Eliud Kipchoge says only the disciplined ones are free in life, then that shows like it's all about discipline, and it's so true. It's very true.
mm-hmm.
Without discipline, you're almost stuck in a box, and with discipline, you're able to escape that box, and you don't feel constrained or stressed to things that you need to do, because you're going to do them because you'll have that discipline. And so I feel like that's some really good stuff.
Totally.
But I'm going to go on the Apple Podcast, and I'm going to pull up a review. Guys, if you're listening right now and you want to leave a review, I'm going to pick some of my favorite reviews and bring them up on the show. So right now, this review is from, his username's DeepCJK, and he said, "Thanks for the great guest and content. I'm a solo runner. Most days are before the sun comes up. This podcast keeps me company. Keep up the great work. Stay real." Thanks for that, DeepCJK. Thanks for the review. And yeah, I think that's really cool how, whenever I was doing a lot of solo runs, like in high school, I would always listen to podcasts, and it almost is like a running buddy or someone you can talk to.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not talking to them on your run, but it's just really good to keep you company, especially on the really, really like couple hour type of runs. So,
Agreed.
you have any last few words before we wrap this all up? I know you have. I want you to promote your podcast and your coaching business and tell people a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate it, Briston. Number one, everybody go follow Texas Outlaw Running. What you guys are doing is awesome. I love it. I'm going to become a Patreon supporter after this when Briston sends me all the information for it.
Appreciate it.
Just love what you're doing, man. For me, yeah, Tempo Talks podcast is the one that I host with my co-host, Aaron Davis. And we do a mixture. We bring on guests to interview. Our last guest we had yesterday actually was Kofuzi, who's a shoe tuber, or like a YouTuber who reviews shoes and
Yeah.
does like vlogs about his running adventures. And he's got like 80,000 followers or subscribers on YouTube. So pretty well known. really interesting conversation with him. He was at Western States actually filming the race.
Oh wow,
Hoka invited him out, so cool conversation there. But amongst him, other awesome guests as well. And then Aaron and I do like episodes where it's just us two talking about our own running journey. Aaron does an awesome job producing it, so it sounds very professional too,
yeah,
which is something I definitely wanted when I was starting a podcast. Like, how
yeah,
can I make it sound as close to Joe Rogan as possible, or these other ones that sound
yeah,
amazing?
yeah,
And we definitely got it. So Tempo Talks podcast, it's on all Spotify, Apple Podcasts, like anywhere you can find podcasts. And then coaching, I'm the head coach of the Maverick running community. So if you want to reach out to me, probably best way is to either send me an email at ryanmillercoaching@gmail.com, ryan.miller.coaching
yeah.
at gmail.com, that is, or send me a DM on Instagram at ryanmiller34. And whatever your goals are, like I've got experience from running a sub 4-minute mile right after college, all the way up now to running or attempting a 100-mile ultra marathon. So whatever your goal, like would love to help you out and talk with you about what's the best way you can get there and have the right support system around you. Yeah. And then quick shout out to my like sponsors that have really helped me on the journey. So Nike Trail, now this past year, Clean Athlete, they do all the supplements I take. Noon Hydration, literally I drink Noon like 5 tablets a day every day from them. Squirrel's Nut Butter, which they do like lube for runners, and literally saves my like upper thighs every single run because they rub together a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
And Morton, I drink a lot of Morton when I'm running. That's like my go-to choice for fueling while I'm training. Morton, they also sponsor like Eliud Kipchoge and most of the elite marathoners out there, so they provide a lot of that fuel. So really appreciate them.
yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. Make sure you guys go check that out. I'm going to leave all his social media links, stuff like that below. All you have to do is scroll down, just click on it, and you guys can follow him on Instagram and connect with him there. But that's going to be the end of the Texas Outlaw Running Talk Show episode, maybe 19. I don't know. We're getting up there in episodes. I'm getting excited about this. But I'll make sure to post you guys. I'll be posting on Instagram when the next show is going to come out. And I will see you guys in the next episode.